CE calls on the public to vote filibustering lawmakers out in forthcoming elections. Ongoing investigations into yesterday's plane crash in the French Alps. And 3 Chinese tourists killed in a bus crash in Phuket.
Good evening. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying has called on the public to vote out filibustering lawmakers in future elections. This comes a day ahead of his question and answer session at the Legislative Council. As Liz Yoon reports, CE's move has drawn criticism from various political parties.
Speaking at an investment conference today, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying recalled last year's 79-day Occupy protests, which he said were settled by the rule of law and public opinion. He said lawmakers who backed the civil disobedience movement will be punished at the ballot box.
For those of you who are registered voters, vote them out next year. The election will take place, electoral election will take place sometime in the third quarter of next year. Go to a polling station, vote them out. A handful of electoral members have been filibustering. They are delaying, for example, the implementation of infrastructural projects, which we need, which we have budgeted for, which will do great things to the economy and to society.
Leung is backed by some pro-establishment lawmakers.
They have proposed non-corporations movement, right? So I think this is very obvious and very reasonable for what CY advocate.
Pro-establishment legislators Wong Kwok Kin and Ip Kwok Kim considered it reasonable for the chief executive to ask voters to punish certain lawmakers in the upcoming elections. Others hit back at CY Leung.
I think the chief executive is making very provocative and very ridiculous statements which are conduct unbecoming of a Hong Kong chief executive.
It is really not up to a man who only had 689 votes to ask voters to vote out legislators who at least would have got tens of thousands of votes before we could become a councillor.
They just stay in the air-conditioned room and didn't take any initiative to negotiate or talk to the opposition member. And such type of attitude is totally unwarranted.
Even Liberal Party lawmaker James Tan, who is against the filibustering, called the chief executive unwise for making such remarks.
By antagonizing the pandemics this way, I think the chance of whether the pandemics will cooperate with him in the next 2 years, again, it will be a big problem.
But Tian added that given Leung Chun-ying's low popularity ratings, he's not sure how much influence the CE's call will have on the voters. Liz Yun, TVB News.
Political donations received by pan-Democrat legislators Lee Cheuk-yan and Leung Kwok Hung will come under the microscope of the LegCo Committee on Members' Interests. The oversight body today decided to launch an investigation. Joao de Silva reports.
The fallout continues over last July's leak to the media of computer files allegedly documenting millions of dollars in donations from Apple Daily founder Jimmy Lai to pan-Democrat parties and politicians. The reports led to accusations that 5 lawmakers had failed to declare political donations. After a meeting of the Committee on Members' Interests today, Chairman Ip Kwok Kim said the body decided to go ahead with an investigation. It will focus on 2 legislators, Leung Kwok Hung and Lee Cheuk-yan. The committee can invoke special LegCo powers to summon witnesses. With regards to James To, Ip said the opinions diverged in the committee and that a report on his case will be submitted to the council at a later stage. The Democratic Party legislator has denied receiving any donations from the get-go. Similar accusations levelled against two other pan-Democrat legislators, Claudia Mo and Alan Leung, were earlier dismissed by the committee because the evidence was deemed inconclusive. As for Leung and Lee, while denying any wrongdoing, they have both apologised to their supporters for the way they handled the donations on behalf of their parties. The Labour Party legislator, who received some $1.5 million from Lee, said he's ready to cooperate with the committee.
Yeah, I welcome the investigation because I have always declared very clearly that donation is not for me as a person, but for my party. And there's a lot of political parties that receive political funding.
Lee also reiterated that he was merely acting on the party's instructions when handling the funds. The ICAC has also been investigating the case involving Lee's donations. In Lee's case, the corruption watchdog's probe aims to establish whether there was any relation between the donations and discussions on press freedom at LegCo. João da Silva, TVB News.
French investigators continue to sift through the wreckage of a Germanwings jetliner that plowed into a mountainside in the French Alps yesterday, killing all 150 people on board. The black box voice recorder of the plane has been recovered, but as Alan Booknier reports, it appears to have been damaged in the crash.
The Airbus A320, operated by Lufthansa's budget airline Germanwings, was obliterated on impact with the French mountainside while en route from Barcelona to Dusseldorf. Helicopters surveyed the scattered debris as investigators sought clues in the wreckage. They're still looking for a second black box that records flight data essential for probing airline accidents. There was no distress call from the aircraft. Among the dead were 16 German school children returning from an exchange trip to Spain. French Interior Minister Bernard Cazeneuve said the black box voice recorder, recovered hours after the crash, was damaged, but it's believed to be usable. Investigators are now working to pull information from it. Witnesses in the near vicinity spoke of how low the plane was flying and how they sensed it was going to crash. Lufthansa chief executive Carsten Spohr said he was devastated. He wouldn't speculate on what caused the crash. It's the first crash in Lufthansa's 60-year history. There have been 12 Airbus A320 accidents in the last 15 years, a rate aviation experts agree is high by industry standards, but not necessarily because it's an unsafe plane.
In the last 15 years, the Airbus 320 has had 12 accidents. Now, 2 of them are under investigation now. The one happened today, and the one happened in Indonesia in December of 2014. That leaves us 10. Of the 10, 8 were human errors.
There were memorials in Spain, France, and Germany. At Germanwings headquarters in Cologne, employees held a candlelight vigil in remembrance of the crew and passengers. Alan Booknier, TVB News.
3 people were killed and 16 injured when a tour bus carrying Chinese tourists plunged off a road on the Thai island of Phuket today. The bus was travelling downhill when the driver lost control and the bus plunged into an embankment. 3 Chinese tourists, 2 women and a man were killed. 15 other tourists and a Thai guide were injured. The bus driver said the brakes failed, causing the vehicle to plunge off the winding road. While best known for its beautiful beaches, Phuket is notorious for its hilly roads. Singapore continues to mourn the passing of its founding father. Huge crowds have lined the streets to watch the casket of Lee Kuan Yew move to Parliament House. That's where Lee's body will lie in state over the next 4 days for public viewing. Because of the high number of mourners, the viewing period has been extended to 24 hours a day instead of from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. as originally stated. The casket was wrapped in Singapore's national flag and brought from the presidential residence, Istana, where the Lee family held a private wake for the past 2 days. Lee died on Monday at the age of 91. Dozens of world leaders are expected to take part in his funeral on Sunday.
Yemen's embattled president has reportedly fled from his home in the southern city of Aden as Shiite rebels advance on the territory. Army volunteers loyal to President Abd Rabbu Mansur Hadi are gathering in Aden, ready to defend the city. Houthi rebels took control of the capital, Sana'a, in September and continue to advance toward Aden, Yemen's temporary capital. The Houthis today claim they seized an airbase just 60 kilometers away. Saudi Arabia is moving heavy military equipment toward its border with Yemen, raising the risk it will be drawn into the worsening conflict. The National Bardo Museum in the Tunisian capital has held a symbolic reopening ceremony 1 week after it came under attack from gunmen. Yesterday's ceremony will be followed by the museum's reopening to the public this weekend. More than 20 people, many of them foreign tourists, were killed last Wednesday after gunmen claiming alliance with Islamic State launched the attack. Thousands of locals and foreigners also staged a march in Tunis to show solidarity with the victims. 3 of those killed were Japanese nationals, and their bodies have been flown back home.
And so to come in our news tonight. Suspicious fire in Mongkok kills a mother and her son. Former EXCO member Barry Chung pleads guilty to owing an employee's wages. And modern-day slavery at an Indonesian fishing village.
Heart-stopping thrills for adrenaline junkies, jaw-dropping hotels, historic and cultural treasures, captivating wildlife on land and sea, and much, much more. Tonight, Delia School of Canada presents the coolest places on Earth at 9 on Pearl.
我覺得呢個人相當有嫌疑，即刻叫聲成個3分鐘啊！有花椒切一份啦。雞蛋6隻，糖呢2茶匙，仲有啲橙皮添。
There are many types of television programs, but not every program is suitable for children to watch on their own. Provide your children with guidance. Share with them the joy of watching television.
You know how they say that we can only access 20% of our brain? Well, what this does, it lets you access all of it.
What would you do?
I feel good, man.
I learned to play the piano in 3 days.
So you want some more?
Yes, definitely.
There's no scenario where you're not working for me.
I see everything, Carl. I'm 50 moves ahead of you and everybody else.
Saturday, Limitless on Pearl's Weekend Blockbuster. The time now is 7:42. The time check was brought to you by Seiko.
Welcome back. A mother and a son died last night in a fire in Mongkok. Authorities say the cause of the blaze is suspicious. Owen Fung reports.
The fire broke out in a flat on the 12th floor of Cosmopolitan Centre on Nathan Road at 11 o'clock last night. Thick black smoke billowed out of the apartment. Around 80 people had to evacuate the building. Firefighters took around half an hour to put out the blaze. A 91-year-old woman and her 61-year-old son were found unconscious in the flat. They died after being sent to hospital. A firefighter was also injured in the rescue operation. According to neighbors, the deceased woman lived alone in the flat where the fire broke out. This resident says at the time of the incident, he saw the son who lived on the floor above rushing to his mother's flat to rescue her. The fire left severe damage to the flat. The flames also blackened walls in the corridor and melted electrical wires. This morning, police officers, firefighters, and electrical mechanical services department officials were still in the flat trying to figure out how the fire started. An initial investigation indicates the cause of the fire is suspicious. The case is now being handled by the Mongkok District Crime Squad. Owen Fung, TVB News.
Former Executive Councillor Barry Chung has pleaded guilty to owing an employee's wages while he was chairman of the now-defunct Hong Kong Mercantile Exchange. He will be sentenced on April 20th. Barry Jung left the Kowloon City Magistrate